I don't even think it's close. And I'm going to explain why, but give me Nico every time, all day, every day. I've seen enough. Let's talk about it. No more GG.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Good evening. My name's Mountaineer Paul. Another episode of Locked On West Virginia heading your way. Brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet, and that's at FanDuel.com. Do there to get started. And thank you for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen every day and for being part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team every single day. So let's get started with this, man. Neil Brown, obviously, and it was a perfectly said, and I felt the same way when I saw the press conference after the game Saturday. He was laying the groundwork, right, to make the change back to Garrett at quarterback. And it was obvious, right? I mean, the thing, he always defends Garrett and never does he criticize him, much like JT Daniels, until it was pretty much too late. Same thing with Daggy and others. So not just quarterback position for him. So when I saw him go in on the offense and Nicco talking about missed throws and stuff, I immediately knew that Nicco Marchiol probably had made his last start, barring other injury. But I think it's a bad decision, and it's not like it's a big surprise that he would make such a decision. Neil is pretty much married to who he's married to. It's pretty much par for the course for him. But I'm sticking with Nicco. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I have a bunch of reasons why. I have seen what I wanted to see out of Garrett this year. First of all, this is not personal towards him at all. You guys know I was extremely hyped coming into the year. The very first snap at Penn State was an absolute disaster from there on. And we were all hyped up, and it was really on him. It was his offseason. He got his flowers. He got paid. It was his campaign, if you will. And dud doesn't even describe the kind of season he's had. It's been worse than that. Coming off a year where he was on every publication, big-time throw rate, all this different stuff, and 34-12. He's 15-28, 161 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, 10 carries and 5 yards in the first game. And then you see kind of a trend with that. Now, he is good for about, especially his last four starts, looks like run around 88 yards a game on the ground. That's important. That is important. And I'm not going to sit here and just omit stats for my own benefit or my own argument. But here's where I differ. First of all, in those games, his completion percentages were 53, 50, 60, 58, and 47. So we can talk about Nicco's 9 of 15 all day if you want. But number one, Nicco only got 15 attempts. Number two, they only had 43 plays ran on Saturday because the defense kept giving the ball back to Cincinnati, right? So Nicco really didn't have a chance to have a great day stat-wise, and he wasn't on. Like, he made a couple really good throws, but who knows? He didn't really have a chance to get in a rhythm, in my opinion. I mean, the couple times you gave him shots down the field, he was pretty on target. He had a nice touchdown pass. He had a nice touchdown run. He scored the ball twice. It's not like Garrett does much better than that. On the year, guys, I mean, Garrett's 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Is that what we're supposed to go back here to? Somebody in the chat's asking me how I broke my nose. Is it that obvious? It's been broken multiple times from fighting. You guys, just really quick, I'll get into this. When you go get locked up, and if for those of you who don't know, I have a past, and I am doing great now. Been clean for 5 years and all that. But there was a time when I had to go to the big place, not just jail, prison. And unfortunately, you get in fights there. They came and found me. I'm not the kind of confrontational person that's just going to fight anybody. But I will defend myself, Mark, and I defended myself with my nose. So, kind of broke the old schnoz a couple times, but I held my own in there. I had my respect, but that's the only way you can survive. Back to this conversation, and happy Veterans Day to you and yours, by the way. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and so if anybody here in the chat or anybody watching tonight is a veteran, can't thank you enough for what you've done. Really, thank you so much. I know what it's like. I know what the sacrifice is. I was in there from 03 to 07, from 18 to 22, and it was some of the best times of my life. I really do believe that. I didn't know what I had when I had it, and I wish I would have stayed in. Maybe I'd be dead. I don't know. But I was 18 and I had a girlfriend back home, and you know how that goes. So that was my decision. Bad or good, I was thinking with the wrong head, as they say. So back to this debate here about Garrett. And I love Garrett, guys, but I don't want to go back to this. Here's my number one reason. If I had a whiteboard behind me, I would write number one reason why Garrett Greene should not start against Baylor. He's just coming off a concussion. So who do you think throws the ball better between Nicco and Garrett? Just ask me that. Who throws the ball better between Nicco and Garrett? It's Nicco. It's not by a ton, but I mean, Garrett's never had an 81 completion percentage game either. So Nicco's ceiling throwing the ball, he's not comfortable yet. I would also say that. Nicco's constantly coming in, coming out, coming in, coming out, and he wins the games. Well, sometimes they're ugly, like Tim Tebow in a way, but he wins them. He's undefeated as a starter. So I think that's important to mention. Sometimes dudes just win, and they don't look pretty all the time. But I do think that, there's a couple things. Neither one of these quarterbacks have elite options at wide receiver. That plays a factor. So, but if you're telling me we got to win the game throwing the ball some days, I'm going to take Nicco. The number one reason, though, for me not to take Garrett is because he's coming off a concussion, and I don't think he can stay healthy. He's proven that now at this point. He's had to come out in every single season he's played, and he gets nicked up constantly. So the thing he's so great at, he's unable to do. That's my biggest issue with Garrett Greene. If you could tell me that he was going to be able to run at 100% on Saturday versus Baylor, fine, you got me. Okay, put Nicco in or put Garrett in. If we can get that out of him, because I do believe Garrett gets us a better chance to win now, because Nicco's always having to come in, go out, come in, go out. It's really not fair to him. At what point is Nicco going to get a few games in a row to actually start? This is the first time he's ever started back-to-back games. Like we're never going to know what we have in him unless we give him the keys for a few games and actually run some offense with him instead of just playing not to lose. And I get it. He's at a certain spot that Garrett isn't at yet. But that's just my opinion with him right now is I think, Garrett may have a better hold or grasp on the offense because he's played more. Same thing when Garrett first came in. And over for JT, Garrett didn't know a ton yet either. But he did have the legs to fall back on. And it's situationally, so does Nicco. But my biggest issue, like I said, is I just don't think Garrett Greene can give us – if you can with good conscience say that Garrett's head injury is completely healed, it's almost been a month and he still couldn't play last week. If you're confident that his legs aren't going to be hampered as a result of that and he's going to be able to run like Garrett runs, which is pretty much with reckless abandon, then okay. But I don't think that's the case, which is why I think Nicco should start. And we should just go ahead and see what we have in him. On the off chance that we somehow get to go to the Big 12 championship game, sure, it would probably be better to have Garrett for those last few games and see if he can get something back to what he had last year. But that's unlikely. And I would much rather win 2 of the next 3, maybe get to 8 wins in a bowl game. And if we got to have Neal back, which I'm on record as saying I don't really want him back, but it doesn't sound like we have a choice, then give me Nicco down the stretch so we at least know what we have next year. Because if he stinks it up like he did and he didn't play well Saturday, but I don't think one game is enough to just pull somebody, that just had an 80% completion game the week before. Everybody forgets about that. Like, if that's the case, then Garrett should have never made it out of week 1, right? Or how about against any other team? I mean, what do you want to look at? He was 9 of 19 versus Kansas State. And of course, Neil Brown focused on the 90-yard drives before the half. He was 18 of 31 against Iowa State. He was, look at that. 9 of 15 versus Oklahoma State. That's almost like Nicco's stat line. Point is, I think Nicco should start because of multiple reasons. Because it sounds like Neil Brown's coming back, like I just said. So if that's the case, then we need to see what we have in Nicco so we know whether to go portaling or to look maybe one of the guys we already have on the roster. If Brody McWhorter sticks around, do we go with him? I don't know. But there are multiple reasons I think you have to look to a guy like Nicco and give him his shot here at the end of the year. If Garrett had lit it up like he did last year, there's nothing I can say. But he's been a true disappointment. One of the biggest, unfortunately. He's been the biggest disappointment on the team for multiple reasons. And some people are saying that he wasn't right to start with. And if that's the case, then that's on others other than himself in a lot of ways. On the year, like I said, Garrett, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 8 picks. Just not great. Nicco has almost 500, 5 touchdowns and 2 picks. And, I mean, he rushed the ball for 40 yards last week. Not this past week, but the week before against Arizona. 18 of 22, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 pick in this last game, and the 1 pick wasn't on him. I just like I said, guys, if it's up to me, I'm sticking with Nicco. That's basically it. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, why did Shadon Brown call out Keenan Cummings, the media writer, when he has the worst secondary in college football? That's up next on Locked On West Virginia. This episode of Locked On West Virginia is brought to you by FanDuel, guys. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, customers can pay $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. That's if you win. FanDuel's Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page you place your bets. You just have to visit FanDuel.com to get joined today. And don't forget, you'll get started at $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to find out. Never waste a hunch and make every moment count with FanDuel, a partner of the National Football League. And we're back. So I'm going to go over here and navigate over to X really quick to see if I can find it. I meant to pull this up pre-show and just forgot. I was pulling up the quarterback stuff. So I'm going to go over here and see if I can find Shadon Brown and what he said about Keenan Cummings here. And I did check. And for whatever reason, he may have deleted this. We'll just have to see here. There's a chance he has because it's been a talking point. Let's see. Looks like it may. Let's look at the replies really quick here. All right. So I am not seeing it here. Maybe it's deleted. But yesterday, if you didn't know, Shadon Brown, which is the safeties coach, basically he was over the secondary for West Virginia, tagged Keenan Cummings from Rivals and said, "Hey, how about the Mountaineers? Basically, you won't pick against us next time." I'm paraphrasing here. I've got the screenshot somewhere, but I can't find it. And it was extremely petty. It really was. I couldn't believe that he tagged a member of the media and kind of tried to gotcha moment, roasted him a little bit. Not exactly sure what he was doing there. trying to find the tweet still. Give me just 1 second. I got one more place to look, which, like I said, it could be deleted. Very, very possible here. But it's just a bad look. Like, what exactly, what at all about that makes you think that's cool when you have the 100 and, oh, wait, dead last secondary? Yeah, here it is right here. At Rivals Keenan, thanks for picking against WVU football. That's what he said. And he's got to get the emoji with the steam coming out of it. Here, I'll show you guys really quick. And for those of you listening on podcast, on X, Shadon Brown, which is the co-defensive coordinator, not anymore, and secondaries coach at West Virginia University. So I found this to be really interesting because Keenan is an incredible guy. He really is. He's such a good dude. And I've known him for a couple of years now and have been fortunate enough to have a few conversations with the guy. This was just a weird scenario here. Like, what exactly, why would you, and I made sure to find out whether it was a joke or not, or like an inside joke, because I didn't want to overreact, you know? So it's not. And I don't understand that. Like, why? Well, you got the worst secondary in the country, basically, or you have had, and you're calling out people in the media. Like, it's even so bad to the point to where you were the co-defensive coordinator. And so logically, whenever Jordan Leslie was fired, you should have been promoted, but you weren't because there's only one other way to interpret it. You weren't getting the job done. So I just don't understand this pulling out receipts or whatever you want to call it. Like, I picked against West Virginia last week too, you know? I thought, like, and look, had Cincinnati didn't turn that ball over 3 times, then we probably do lose that game. So I don't know. I just found it to be a weird, tacky, kind of a weird decision by Shadon, especially, you know, since the secondary has performed like it has this year. It's just a bad look. Not as bad as Mark Harlan for Utah and what he did. That blew me away yesterday whenever he came out after the press conference and started talking about Utah and how they were excited to be in the Big 12, but not anymore. Like, really? That's the stance you want to take? You were supposed to win this, and now you're coming out to the presser after the game? Like, get out of here. I want to address a couple comments here really quick. Some people are saying start Nicco, and if he falters, then put in Garrett. I wish Gigi took JT's spot much sooner towards the end of JT's season. Says Cheers, Beers, and Mountaineers. It was obvious Garrett Greene was the future, and he needed reps. Now we have the potential future Nicco, and he just needs reps. Listen, it's exactly, that's right. You're right, Cheers, Beers, and Mountaineers. And here's the thing. It's patterns per deal, right? He has these similar patterns with a lot of different things that he does. Whether it's staying married to certain players, you know, he don't believe in gamers. This is like something that somebody else brought up that I've forgotten about. But, yeah, he doesn't even believe that you can be just a gamer. Like, some people just play better in games versus how they practice, you know. Some guys are practice players. Some teams are gamers. Some guys, you can tell how they're going to play by the way they practice. Like, and some guys, they can practice like crap and play really well in the game still. So Neil doesn't believe that, though. He believes that practice is where it's all at. Doris Workman is asking if I'm one of the Creek boys up on Dingus. I am from Dingus, yes. Thank you for asking, Doris. I am from Dingus. My last name is Rockle. My Uncle Larry Rockle is the game warden around there, or he was for a long time. And then if you want to go on my other side of the family, Muncie was the last name, which Fred Muncie, who lived in the bottom there in Dingus, was my papaw, and a bunch of other family members and stuff like that. So thanks for asking. Somebody said they need Gigi to start for their fantasy. Derek wants to know, besides the wins, do I really think he's better? I think that Derek, I think Garrett can't stay healthy enough to be better. That's my issue. It's not that if everything's equal at this point in their careers because of I think Nicco is, first of all, Nicco is not playing with certainty. Like he's not playing like a senior quarterback, right? He's playing like a guy that's only had 4 or 5 starts, and they're all spaced out over 3 years. Like, can you imagine how hard it is had to been for him over these 3 years? But as far as like, I think Garrett Greene, if he's healthy and everything, is the more dynamic player for sure, and gives us a lot. But I can't trust him to stay healthy, especially coming off of a head injury. And you're thinking you're going to ask me to trust him to run in this game? Like, I just can't do it. I can't. I want to. I would love to, but I have to stick with Nicco. I don't think Neil will, but I don't. I think Nicco will absolutely go with Garrett Greene if he's healthy enough to, if he can practice. And I guess we'll see how it plays out. And look, something that Casaza and Anderson pointed out earlier today on their podcast was, hey, look, he had probably his best game of the year last year, but against Baylor. So that could spell pretty something good, right? We got a lot of the same players. Like, you should be able to have a similar game plan against that defense. And so maybe Garrett gets it together for this game. Maybe he can get a spark. Maybe he can get going. But I don't know. You know what, Jared? I just can't believe that. Somebody in the chat said if Garrett Greene is healthy, he will get the nod, but on a short leash, health and performance-wise. Here's why I don't believe it. I just don't think Neil will pull Garrett almost in any scenario unless he's hurt, health-wise maybe. But performance-wise, I mean, we saw how he played against Kansas State. Nicco played the second half of that game and was kind of thrown to the wolves and really played badly too there. Like I said, it's not like it's a landslide for Nicco, but I do believe you have to continue to start this kid because all these starts spread out over 3 years can't be good for his psyche, can't be good for his confidence. Maybe he's fine. I mean, he's stuck around for it, that's for sure, but I don't know. It's an odd situation, really, guys. And at the end of the day, all we can do is hope we win, right? Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's talk a little bit about the Big 12 and the Big 12 title game and a scenario that I found out about tonight that kind of shocked me when it came to West Virginia and the Big 12 title game. Stick around for that. You don't want to miss it. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time, guys. That's right. It's game time. There's a super deal going on with Game Time right now, guys, and it's very good. Curated deals make it easier to find great prices on the seats that you want. You can look at them before you buy in a panoramic 360-degree view, and they have a lowest price guarantee. They've even got event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc., making them the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, guaranteed to credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a lower price. Toggle the feature on all-in pricing if you want to show the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. But at the very end of the day, download the app, create an account, and use Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Create the account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off and download the app today. What time is it? It's game time. And we're back. All right. So here's the crazy thing that I was going to allude to before the break. There is a scenario where West Virginia could win out. Colorado could lose the game. West Virginia could play in the Big 12 championship game. And West Virginia could win the Big 12 championship game and be 9-4 and still not make the playoff. That's pretty wild, isn't it? Because it's the 5 highest conference champions, right? I seen somebody bring this up earlier today. Now, it's not likely. Like, I don't know how likely this would be but this year, when you've got Boise having the incredible year they do in an undefeated Army in the AAC, that's the situation you could see possibly happening here, which would be insane. And somebody said this would be the most Neil Brown thing ever to happen. You know, so it's probably, first of all, I don't think we're going to win out, really. Maybe in the regular season, I think we have a good shot. But I mean, if you're talking about the Big 12 title game, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be that scared of BYU, but Colorado would be kind of a different animal. So somebody in the chat wants to know who Colorado plays. They've got, listen, they can lose. They've got Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. And Kansas is playing extremely well right now. Lance Leipold is a really good coach. We'll see what happens in the last 3 games. That'd be pretty crazy. That would be pretty crazy. We would have especially if they lose to Kansas, that would give us a head-to-head victory over common opponent with Colorado as well, knocking them out. And then I think K-State plays a factor. But see, the rules are so strange because if we're head-to-head against Iowa State or Kansas State in a tie-break scenario, I'm pretty sure we lose that. But it's when more than one team become a tiebreaker. Like, let's say 3 teams are on a tie. Well, you can no longer do head-to-head at that point because there's 3 teams involved. So you have to go to other, like, common opponents and things like that. So that's why we need to root for at least 3 teams to have 2 losses at the end of this, like Colorado, West Virginia, K-State, whoever, because then you go to common opponents, right? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. But West Virginia absolutely has a shot. So we went out. Colorado loses 1. I think that's pretty much what we need, and maybe something else. I think they've given us an 8% chance at this point. So I'm sure there's some things that I haven't calculated. And so maybe you want to use that as a little smarter than me could go do that. Dion has bought his ticket to the championship game, somebody said. Absolutely. All right, guys, that's about it for me tonight. Just wanted to talk about the quarterback situation and address that along with the Shannon Brown issue, which just kind of blew me away. Keep coming back as always. Hit that like button before you leave. Subscribe to Locked On West Virginia if you can. That would make a big difference, guys. We've grown a lot, almost 1,000 subscribers since we started here. Thank you for the comment. Somebody says Will Greer signed with the Cowboys. Thank you very much. Wish him the best. That's where he was at for years, so maybe he'll get another shot there. Other than that, guys, just want to tell you, I think you're making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Sherman puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. This episode's over, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and I'm out.